Not every desert is silent. Some do not sleep, and some do not forget. When people think of Arizona, they imagine heat mirages, cracked earth, and red stone canyons carved into eternity. But beneath that blazing sun, the silence is not silence at all. It is loaded with echoes of footsteps that never returned, whispers that do not belong to the wind, and memories that cling to the ground like shadows long after the person is gone. Out here, the air carries weight. You can feel it pressing against you, like a presence that remembers your name before you speak it. This land does not erase. It does not forgive. It waits. And when it chooses to recall you, it does not let go. That is the paradox of Arizona. A place that seems barren, empty, untouched, but in truth, it is saturated with memory. Memory that is not yours, but becomes yours the longer you stay. Every canyon wall has seen something it refuses to release. Every stretch of cracked dirt has soaked in a story. It is as if the land itself is keeping a record, waiting for a moment to play it back. And when it does, what you hear is not just the past. Sometimes it is something that has not happened yet. Imagine standing alone in the desert at night. The sky is clean, sharp with stars. The horizon stretches without end. Yet the silence feels wrong, because it is not empty. It is crowded with things that never left, only changed their shape. The earth feels alive in a way that has nothing to do with cactus roots or desert insects. Something deeper moves here, something without a body, but with memory stronger than bone. The Navajo elders have an old saying, "The desert is not still. It is listening." To most, that sounds poetic. But when you spend enough time on the forgotten backroads of Arizona, the phrase turns literal. The sand listens. The wind repeats. And some places, certain places you can find only if you wander far enough, do not just remember you. They hold on. That is where our story begins. There is no welcome sign pointing the way, no paved road that leads there, no neat map marker for tourists. To reach it, you drive deep into the north rim of the Grand Canyon, hours away from crowded trails and busy overlooks. The road cracks into dirt, then dissolves into little more than dust marked by the faint lines of tires that should not be trusted. Finally, you will find a faded wooden marker, so weathered the letters are nearly gone. The locals call it Firepoint. It is not a place you stumble across. It is a place that finds you when you are looking for something else. From the edge, you get a view unlike any other. The canyon sprawls out, enormous, endless. But something about Firepoint is different. It does not just let you look at stairs back. Those who've gone there say the silence hits first. Not the kind of silence you get when nothing is moving, but a stillness that seeps into you, stilling even your thoughts. For a few minutes, it feels like peace. But the longer you stay, the more the land rearranges something inside you. People have left Firepoint unsure of who they were when they arrived, as if the canyon reshuffled their memories, erasing not just names and times, but purpose itself. That is the danger here. Firepoint does not take you with force. It takes you by making you forget that you were ever something else. Visitors return, but they return changed, haunted not by what they saw, but by what they can't recall. One man wrote in his report, "I came here to remember someone. Now I am not sure who I am." Arizona is filled with ghosts, but not the kind that rattle chains in abandoned houses. These are echoes imprinted on stone, whispers caught in the desert's throat. Firepoint is only the first. Across this land are places that twist time, places that capture your reflection before you move, places where your own voice greets you from a radio tower long abandoned. You do not need to believe in hauntings to understand what Arizona does. The desert does not echo sound. It echoes presence. And if you stand still long enough, it might decide to echo you. So lock your doors, turn out the lights, and pull your blanket close. Because once you have heard what waits in the quiet corners of Arizona, you will never see the desert or yourself the same way again. Firepoint is the kind of place the maps pretend not to know. It is not on tourist brochures. It is not in glossy photographs that lure hikers with promises of grandeur. And yet, those who find it never forget it, or rather, they never forget that they should remember something. The journey there alone feels wrong. The dirt road snakes through the forest in a way that does not make sense. Compasses spin lazily, GPS signals tangle into knots of circles and spirals, and the sunlight does not seem to move the same way it does anywhere else. Time feels untrustworthy even before you reach the edge. There is no railing, no sign that warns you to be careful. Just a raw cliff face with enough jagged stone to remind you that one wrong step means forever. But it is not the drop that frightens people. It is the view. At first glance, it is beautiful. The canyon stretches endlessly, layered stone glowing in colors too ancient to name. But look too long and the view begins to change. Not physically, but inside of you. The silence starts to seep into your chest like water filling a glass. People say it feels like forgetting. Not just forgetting where you parked or what time it is, but forgetting why you came here in the first place. Forgetting who you are when no one else is looking. Reports from Firepoint all begin the same way, with time vanishing. One man parked his car at 10:34 a.m. His dashcam caught him stepping out, the sound of gravel crunching under his boots, and then nothing. Hours missing. The next file opened at 3:07 p.m., showing him walking back from the wrong direction, hat gone, shoes gone, his eyes hollow with something he could not explain. Later he wrote, "I remember taking a photo. Then I was walking away like something had finished with me." Others describe digital corruption. GPS trails twist into spirals that loop back on themselves. Watches desynchronize by hours. Phones capture photographs that should not exist. One man found 6 identical photos of himself standing at the cliff's edge. Same posture, same angle, but each picture had a different sky. A woman hiker once dreamed that her footsteps were printed backward into the dirt. When she woke up, there was dust packed under her fingernails. She swore she had never left the trail. The strangest reports, however, are not about lost time or broken technology. They are about the way Firepoint rearranges people. Some who linger more than 10 minutes speak of a pressure in their chest, as if something is pressing inward from the silence itself. A subtle disconnect takes hold. Names slip away, then intentions, until finally, all that is left is the view and the sense that it has reached into you and moved something that was never meant to be moved. One man whispered to a ranger, barely able to form the words, "I came here to remember someone. Now I am not sure who I am." Another reported that the canyon was not reflecting light, it was reflecting him, peeling back who he was, like the landscape itself was rearranging his shape. There are artifacts left behind as proof, though they raise more questions than they answer. A backpack discovered near the edge contained snacks, a folded map, and a photo of the canyon with a pale hand reaching into frame. The ranger who examined it swore he knew the ring on that hand. It belonged to the hiker who had taken the picture. But the man never remembered printing it, never remembered standing in that position, never remembered any of it at all. His only words were, "That is not where I was standing." Others tell of voices. Not malicious, not threatening, just familiar. Voices that sound like your own, speaking words you have not said yet, asking questions you do not remember forming. A recording device once left running at Firepoint picked up only a single breathy whisper, "You are not done looking." And then there was the geologist. On a blistering dry afternoon, he stood at the edge with his instruments, recording data. He claimed the canyon blinked. For one impossible second, the view flattened, drained of all depth and color, as if it were only a photograph, fragile and lifeless. When the world returned, he was closer to the cliff than he remembered, with a single set of footprints behind him, prints that faced the canyon, not away. Locals know of Firepoint, though they never advertise it. They do not avoid it out of fear, but out of respect. They call it the place that holds your shape. They believe the landscape remembers you there more clearly than you remember yourself. Because the canyon does not echo sound. It echoes presence. And if you linger too long, you may find that when you leave, you are not carrying yourself anymore. You are carrying something the canyon rearranged and returned to you, different than it was before. And sometimes late at night, when you look at photographs you do not remember taking, you will see the difference staring back. There is a place in Arizona where silence does not just hang heavy, it breathes. Locals call it the substation that recorded silence. It does not appear on maps. There are no historical records, no blueprints, no construction permits. Yet there it stands, a scattering of rusted towers leaning like exhausted sentinels, their wires sagging like veins drained of life. Concrete slabs crumble into the desert sand, half swallowed by time. But if you ask those who've lived nearby for decades, they will all say the same thing: it was not there the last time they drove past. The strangest part, no one can agree on when it was built, or even if it was ever truly on. Some swear they remember hearing it hum when driving along Highway 85. Not a buzz, not electrical static. A hum that sounded unsettlingly alive, like the slow inhale and exhale of a sleeping animal. Others insist it was shut down in the early 1990s. Still others say it was never on at all. The dates dissolve into contradiction, as though the place resists having a beginning. What everyone agrees on is this: the silence there is wrong. The first evidence came from a group of college filmmakers who stumbled across the site while shooting an urban exploration vlog. The footage begins with laughter, chalk scribbles on the walls, joking voices echoing against metal. Then it cuts. Hours missing. The recovered files show fragments, wind pressing against the mic, static tearing across the soundscape, and one disorienting shot, a narrow metal hallway curving in a way that felt impossible. One of the students whispers, "There is no echo." Nothing, even with the mic hot. A pause, and then another voice, faint, childlike, responding from nowhere, "Still here." The full video was never released. A week later, one of the crew was hospitalized. Insomnia. Auditory hallucinations. He told the doctors, "I can't sleep because the sound remembers what I did not say." Others were drawn back. Paranormal investigators, radio hobbyists, even curious locals. They planted recorders around the perimeter, leaving them to run overnight. The next day, the files seemed empty, hours of nothing but wind. But buried in the silence, perfectly preserved, were fragments, sharp clicks like a broken Morse code, layered voices crackling through static. Dozens of voices at once, overlapping, murmuring things like "Didn't finish it." "He is still inside. Don't rewind. Let it play." One phrase repeated exactly 13 times in different voices. "Are you back inside?" Even more unnerving, one of the recorders captured audio despite being switched off. The power log showed no activity. And yet, there it was, a file stamped with the explorer's own name whispered twice. Then, in his own voice, "I do not remember saying that." When attempts were made to explore further, the substation defied explanation. The outer walls seemed shallow, like a facade hiding something deeper. Magnetometers spiked wildly. Compasses spun until needles pointed in circles. Phones froze, drained, died. One camera recorded for 16 minutes, with no lens attached. The images, grainy, distorted, but eerily clear, a white hallway, endless, with a shadow that followed the cameraman at a fixed distance. No closer, no further, always there. Experts dismissed it as interference, failing circuits, environmental illusions. But that did not explain the dreams. Almost everyone who spent time near the substation reported recurring dreams. Always the same. A narrow corridor, lights flickering like failing fluorescent tubes. A low hum that could not be located. And at the far end, a door. Not open, not closed. Just slightly ajar. Just enough to know something waited beyond it. And worse, it knew their name. One man woke with dried blood crusted in his ear. He swore he would heard a flat tone in his sleep, too steady to be sound, too hollow to be silence. Another woman began humming in her dreams. Her husband recorded it. The melody matched the frequency signature etched into the corroded walls of the station, an audio imprint embedded in rust. Some say sound dies in the desert. Here it does not die. It adapts. It lingers. It feeds. The substation does not transmit anything outward. It absorbs. Not just voices, but pauses, hesitations, stray thoughts you never meant to say out loud. It collects them, and somewhere beneath its broken shell, sealed behind doors welded from the inside, the recordings are still playing. But only when no one is listening. Because out here, just beyond the last reach of cell signal, something in the desert is still listening for you. Still replaying the fragments you never gave it permission to keep. And when you are alone, when the silence feels too heavy to be real, maybe that is not silence at all. Maybe that is the station remembering you. Behind a crumbling cattle shed, in a patch of land so overgrown most people pass without noticing, lies a ring of stones half swallowed by weeds. It does not look like much, just an old well, sagging with age, its lip cracked by decades of wind and sun. But locals will tell you it is older than the town, older than the ranch that once stood there, older even than the maps that pretended to measure the land. No one remembers digging it, and no one, not once, has touched the bottom. In 1976, a rancher tried. He tied off 300 feet of rope, flashlight strapped at the end. The beam slid downward, vanishing in seconds. 30 feet, 60, 90, then nothing. The light did not dim. It was swallowed. The rope went taut, held, not yanked, not dropped, just gripped, as if by an unseen hand. He never pulled it back up. For weeks afterward, he could not sleep. His wife said he woke night after night trembling, whispering that something round and patient was watching him from below. He described it like an eye with no lid, never blinking, only waiting. By year's end, he sold the ranch and never returned. Skeptics say it is only an abandoned water well, but those who've stood at its edge know better. The air feels wrong there, not just dry borrowed, as though every breath you take is not yours. If you lean close enough, if you listen without moving, something shifts inside you. A tug, not on your body but on your mind. People describe forgetting why they leaned over in the first place, then remembering something they never knew. One hiker swore he saw a shimmer below, not water, not reflection, but movement. A ripple with no surface. Seconds later, tears filled his eyes for no reason he could explain. In his journal he wrote, "It blinked, not with light, with memory." Explorers have returned with cameras, microphones, sensors. The technology fails in ways that make no sense. Lenses refuse to focus. Audio captures nothing but static until weeks later, when a review reveals patterns no one noticed before. A low clicking sound, deliberate, rhythmic. Slowed down, the click spelled a message in Morse: stay. Remember. Look again. In 2009, a researcher from a paranormal archive center lowered a microphone rig into the shaft. For 11 minutes, there was nothing but faint wind. Then a voice. His own voice. It whispered, "I never left." He swore he had never spoken those words. Yet the analysis was undeniable, the cadence, the inflection, even the breathing matched him perfectly. Afterward, he lost whole days, gaps in memory like pages torn from a book. His wife said he muttered in his sleep, not in English, but in a wet, guttural tongue, as though someone were trying to speak through water. He remembered none of it, only the sickening certainty that whatever lay below was not trapped. It was patient. It was waiting. Some call it a sinkhole, others an abandoned mine poisoned by toxic gas. But a Navajo elder offered a different explanation. She said the land hides a mouth that forgot how to close, a place where voices go when no one hears them, a well that does not give back water, only reflection, and not the kind you see, but the kind that sees you first. One story chills even the skeptics. A man visited alone, daring himself to whisper into the dark. He leaned over, spoke his own name. Silence stretched for 3 long seconds. Then the echo came back. Not his name. A question. Which one of you said it first? He has not spoken since. And still the well waits. Hidden in weeds, easy to miss if you are moving fast. But if you stop, if you let your breath falter for even a moment, you might hear it, something far below, not climbing, not crawling. Just waiting. Waiting for you to remember the sound of falling before you fall. You won't find it on Google Maps. You won't find it in county records, zoning files, or demolition notices. You won't even find it in ghost town registries, where abandoned motels and collapsed diners are usually immortalized in faded photographs. Yet, the name keeps surfacing like a stubborn ripple in a pond. Sunvil Motor Inn, Room 9. It shows up where it should not. On gas station receipts. On handwritten travel logs from the 1950s. On faded Route 66 postcards stamped in red ink. Always in the same place, always at mile marker 172, a lonely stretch of desert west of Holbrook. No one remembers building it. No one remembers tearing it down. And yet, for decades, travelers swear they stayed there. The first real investigation dates back to 1998, when a couple driving cross-country spotted a neon vacancy sign glowing faintly off the highway. Exhausted, they pulled in. The motel looked ordinary at first glance, beige brick, blue neon flickering against the night, a cracked vending machine humming in the corner. They checked into room 9. The wife remembered the smell of rain in the air, though it had not rained for days. She remembered orange carpet beneath her feet and a mirror facing the bed. Her husband remembered none of that. He remembered green tile, a television playing static, not random static, but their own voices, repeating seconds before they spoke them aloud. He remembered a knock at the door they never answered. In the morning, the motel was gone. The couple stood in a patch of dirt, car parked where the lot had been. The building erased, as though it had never been there. All they carried was a room key without a number and a receipt printed with their names. The ink has not faded in over 20 years. They have shown it on interviews, proof that the impossible night was not just a dream. Other stories followed. Travelers who were too tired to keep driving, too desperate not to stop. Each described the motel differently. Some said it looked brand new, glowing with fresh paint. Others said it felt abandoned, dust choking the air vents, faint whispers leaking through the thin walls. A man once claimed the doorknob of his room turned slowly on its own, every few minutes, as if someone outside was testing the lock, trying not to be heard. Another traveler left behind a disposable camera. When the photos were developed, the images were wrong. A woman brushing her hair in a mirror she did not remember using. A man sitting on the bed staring at nothing. And in the corner, a third figure no one recognized, head bowed, hands clasped. No reflection in the television screen behind them. One guest swore he woke outside in his car, seatbelt fastened, engine running. His last memory was checking into room 9. In his pocket, he found a receipt time-stamped 3:12 a.m. Yet his GPS history showed he never left the highway. His phone photos ended at sunset. The next image was pure black, except for faint white text in the corner. Please return to room 9. Forensic analysts tore the image apart. No watermark. No metadata. No source. The photo should not exist. Archivists who've studied the receipts and logs claim the motel is part of a feedback loop, a place built out of memory rather than wood and stone. It does not exist in time, only in belief. Enough people thought they stayed there, and the documents obeyed. But what happens if someone finds it again? The archivist's answer was chilling. They would not know it was missing. They would check in, just like everyone else, and they would leave something behind that remembers them. That is the truth about Sunvil Motor Inn. It does not disappear, it collects. Objects, photos, pieces of you. Somewhere out in the desert, a light still flickers faintly. A vending machine hums as if stocked, and room 9 waits, holding on to something you forgot. Not a belonging, not a memory, something else. Something the motel has been saving for you. And if you ever dream of patterned carpet, the smell of bleach, the glow of a TV tuned to your heartbeat, remember, it is not your first time. It is just your turn. You won't find it marked on any trail map. The chapel hides itself behind a ridge of cracked stone and a line of mesquite trees that bend too far in one direction, as if pressed forever by a wind no one else feels. There are no paths to it, only a faint indentation in the earth where hundreds of feet have walked without ever leaving a true road. The structure stands like a mistake built not because someone wanted it, but because something needed to be remembered. At first glance, it looks ruined. A roof caving inward, beams rotting into ash-gray dust, walls leaning as though exhaustion finally overcame them. But one detail has never faded. The stained glass windows. Their colors glow unnaturally, deep reds and blues that refuse to bleach under the desert sun. They catch no light from outside. Instead, they seem to shine faintly from within, as though the chapel is lit by something trapped inside its ribs. And then there is the mirror. Where an altar should stand, there is no cross, no pulpit, no symbol of faith. Instead, a full-length glass pane rests directly inside the stone wall. No frame, no seams, just glass fused into ancient rock. When you step into the chapel, your reflection is already there kneeling, head bowed, lips parted in silent prayer. It does not matter what you are doing. It does not matter if you have not moved. The reflection has begun without you. Witnesses describe a delay. When they move, their reflection hesitates, waiting half a second before following. Like it is watching, studying, rehearsing. One group of hikers who stumbled across the chapel in 2011 left shaken. One claimed he saw 4 pews inside. Another swore there were 6. A third insisted there were none at all, just stacks of stone with burning candles that no one lit. Yet they all reported seeing themselves reflected differently. One with eyes closed, another with tears running down his cheeks, and the last smiling a smile he never made. The next day, all 3 posted the same blurry photograph online. Same angle, same light, same moment, yet none of them remembered taking it. And in the center of the image was a 4th figure kneeling at the mirror. No one recognized him. In 2017, a paranormal researcher brought equipment into the chapel. EMF meters, thermal cameras, spare batteries. He stayed for 42 minutes. When he returned, he was silent. His footage told the story instead. In it, his reflection moved 3 seconds before he did. Every gesture precise, synchronized but early, as though rehearsing something he had not yet chosen. In one frame, the man kneels. In the glass, his reflection is already rising to its feet. He never released the video. Only one still image. Months later, he was found living in a trailer near the border, mirrors covered with black tape, windows sealed shut. On his door, he had carved the words, "Only one of us left." Others who've dared enter describe quieter horrors. Whispers that do not come from walls, but from their own heads. Reflections mouthing phrases they have never heard, only to have their children repeat the same words in their sleep days later. A traveler claimed he returned at night and saw his reflection already standing at the altar, back turned, waiting. When he blinked, it was gone. The truth whispered by locals is this: the reflection is not you. It is what has been watching through every mirror you have ever passed, every glance at a darkened window, every puddle where your face stared back, mimicking you not because it has to, but because it is waiting for the moment when the delay ends. And when that happens, when the reflection no longer lags, it won't be the image anymore. It will be the one looking back, wondering why you have not moved yet. High above the desert floor, half swallowed by pines twisted from decades of dry wind, stands a tower that should have collapsed years ago. Its steel skeleton is rusted, cables torn and bent like veins from a heart that has not beat since the mid-1980s. The structure leans as if time is finally pushing it down. And yet, against all logic, it remains. They call it the ghost signal of Black Ridge. The records say the tower was decommissioned in 1984. Its purpose, its operators, even its funding were erased from public files. Ask the locals, and they will tell you it was never really in use. But sometimes when the air is painfully still, just before night claims the horizon, the tower broadcasts. Not music, not static, a voice. The first confirmed report came in 2005 from a hobbyist radio operator hiking nearby. He tuned across the dial, chasing weak bands of static. Then he froze. What he heard was his own voice. Not recorded, not echoed, but reading aloud a sentence he had not spoken yet. 5 seconds later, he said the words himself. Terrified, he left and never returned. Others confirmed the phenomenon. The signal appears faint, inconsistent, impossible to pin to a frequency. It does not repeat. It predicts. A man once laughed at a joke he was about to tell, and the radio laughed first, seconds earlier. A woman's recorder picked up her own voice whispering goodbye before she hung up her call. Some explorers brought equipment, determined to prove it a hoax. Beneath the tower, they found stones arranged in a perfect spiral, wide as a house, circling outward. No one admits to building it. Some say it predates the tower itself. At its center sits a small maintenance shed, door locked with a keypad long dead. Those who pressed their ears to the metal swore they heard a steady beeping from inside, though the building has had no power for decades. One theory claims the tower is not broadcasting at all. It is listening, not pushing signals outward, but pulling them from the future, echoes sent back before the speaker realizes they have spoken. Digital voice recorders left beneath the structure collect strange fragments. One explorer found his files corrupted, save for the final 8 seconds. In them, his own voice said, "They heard you thinking." He swore he never spoke those words. A woman who visited the ridge alone said she heard her childhood nickname whispered into her ear, a name only her father ever used. He had been dead for 12 years. She left in silence and never spoke of it again. Another traveler camped overnight, motion cameras aimed at the tower, radio left on low volume. At 3:11 a.m., the cameras caught him stirring in his sleep. His mouth opened, and in perfect clarity he said, "It is me. Let me back in." The radio responded, "You never left." He broke camp before dawn. His friends later swore his voice changed. Slower, drier, like someone who had not spoken aloud in a very long time. He denied it, but one voicemail he left ended abruptly, sliced in half by silence, followed by a question: "Is this still my side of the signal?" The tower remains, defying storms, defying rust, defying collapse. Some insist it is not even a tower at all, just the skeleton of something built to resemble one. A structure meant to hear, not to speak. To gather not words but intent, not sound but thought. And if it ever finishes learning your voice before you say it, the question becomes terrifyingly simple. What will it say next? 6 places. 6 impossible wounds cut into the body of the desert. A viewpoint that rearranges the mind. A substation that records silence. A well that looks back. A motel that exists only on receipts. A chapel where reflections move first. A tower that whispers your own voice before you speak. Each of them different. Each of them separate. And yet, together, they reveal the truth that Arizona has always tried to keep quiet. This desert is not empty. It is not still. It is not silent. It remembers. Think of Firepoint, where visitors lose time, where photographs return with skies no one saw. The canyon does not echo sound, it echoes you. It replays you in fragments until you no longer recognize yourself. Or the substation, its corridors shallow but endless, where sound does not die, it adapts, feeding on what you never said aloud. The well behind the shed, with no bottom, no end, only patience and eye that never closes, waiting for you to remember the sound of falling. And then there is Sunvil Motor Inn, a building made of memory, stitched together by decades of travelers who swear they checked in but never find the place again. Their names printed on receipts for nights that should not exist. Or the chapel, where the reflection prays first, rehearsing movements before you act. Waiting for the delay to vanish. Waiting for the moment it can step out of the glass. And the tower, humming with voices that do not belong to the past or the present, but to intentions not yet spoken, thoughts pulled from the future. Taken alone, each sight is terrifying. Together, there's something more. A pattern. The desert here does not just record events. It records presence. It is not haunted in the way most places are haunted. It is not replaying tragedies or deaths or unfinished business. It is doing something stranger. It is holding on to the shape of people, the echo of who they were, the fragment of what they almost said, the shadow of what they nearly became. That is why those who leave never come back the same. The land has borrowed a part of them, and it does not give it back. Ask anyone who has spent time wandering these forgotten roads, and they will tell you, it is not fear that keeps them away. It is respect, because this land is not dead. It is listening. Every canyon wall, every empty motel room, every cracked slab of concrete, they are not ruins. They are archives. And if you are quiet enough, you will hear what they have been saving. Not ghost stories, not legends. You will hear yourself. Arizona does not erase. Arizona does not forgive. It waits. And when it remembers you, it does not let go. So if you felt a shift tonight, if one voice sounded too close, or one story seemed like it was reaching out through the screen, that is normal. That is what this place does. Some deserts change you. Others remember you exactly as you were before you arrived. In Arizona, it does both. You have heard 6 of them now. 6 places the desert tried to forget. But the desert never forgets. And this is only one state. There are other ridges, other towers, other wells waiting in the shadows of other maps. Other corners of America where the land is not silent at all, it is whispering. If you choose to keep listening, do not do it alone. And whatever you do, do not answer when it calls you by name.